Sorry?
Where? Sit beside you.
Please remain standing for the national anthems of Canada and Poland. To help us sing, I invite Grażyna Różycka to come forward, please.
Ja poproszę moją koleżankę, muzykę, Maję Budzińską o ładne G dla mnie, żeby zacząć się na odpowiednią nutę.
Stand on guard for thee. We stand on guard for thee. Jeszcze Polska nie zginęła, póki my żyjemy. Co nam obca przemoc wzięła, szablą odbierzemy. Marsz, marsz Dąbrowski, z ziemi włoskiej do Polski, za twoim przewodem. Marsz, marsz Dąbrowski,
Z ziemi włoskiej do Polski, za Twoim przewodem.
złączym się z narodem.
Chodźcie sztandarowe, sztandary do postawy. Chodźcie sztandarowe, sztandary do stojaków.
Thank you very, very much for singing the anthem songs. And I would like to ask our president, Halina Made, to come forward to welcome you.
Please be seated.
This one. Okay. Thank you. Good evening. Your Honor, Madam Lieutenant Government of Alberta, Honorable Ministers, Member of Parliament, members of the Legislative Assembly of Alberta, Consul General of Poland, Consul General of Ukraine, Honorary Consuls, Chancellor of the Archdiocese of Edmonton, ladies and gentlemen. I am greatly honored to welcome you today to this celebration of the Polish settlement in Alberta and unveiling of the Centennial Monument. The creation of this monument involved a few years of volunteer efforts, community debates, and artistic innovation. But the Centennial Monument is finally here, on this new and very prestigious location on this Treaty 6 territory. I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to all volunteers who make this project possible. Honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to thank you all of you for being with us here today to commemorate such an important occasion for the Polish community in Alberta. On days like today, we are reminded yet again how lucky and grateful we are to live in a beautiful province and a country that celebrates our multicultural heritage. Thank you, Canada. And now I'd like to introduce our Master of Ceremonies. They were both presidents of the Canadian Polish Congress, Alberta Society, and also contributed to the realization of this project. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Therese Szlamfryga and Dr. Jarek Nowinka.
I would like to introduce to you someone very dear to our hearts, and I'm talking about Father Adam Lech, the Chancellor of the Archdiocese of Edmonton, to bring invocation. Father Lech.
Loving God, no one is a stranger to you, and no one is ever far from your loving care. We thank you for the generous welcome offered by the civil authority of Canada to our brothers and sisters, the Polish immigrants who left their own country to search for work, bread, home, and better opportunities for their children. We appreciate their hard work, their great love for the Church, their tradition which they passed to the new generations born here on this soil. May their love for Poland and Canada be forever remembered. Amen.
Thank you, Father.
Okay, I'll start then. We'd like to welcome our distinguished guests here, some of whom I see and some I don't, but let's just go according to the program. Your Honor, it's a pleasure and honor for us to welcome you to the event. Salma Lakani, Lieutenant Governor of Alberta.
and Heather Mcpherson, who is the MP for Edmonton Strathcona. Is Heather here? Yes! Well, because it's my writing too, so very happy to see her.
Ronald Orr, Minister of Culture, Government of Alberta.
Casey Madu, Minister of Justice and Solicitor General of Alberta.
Dan Williams, Member of the Legislative Assembly. Hello.
Andrzej Mankowski, Consul General of the Republic of Poland.
Alexander Danileko, Consul General of Ukraine.
Ken Kowalski, former Speaker of the Legislature, and I think the longest serving one too. Welcome.
Walter Paszkowski, I'm not sure, Walter, if you're around?
He's here, yeah.
Yes, excellent. Former Minister of Agriculture and actually several other ministers, Walter. Thanks for coming.
Councillor John Jadik, City of Edmonton. Welcome.
Mike Nichol, right?
He's here somewhere, yeah.
We're also told that Mike Nichol, another councillor from...
There.
Yes, hello. Thanks for coming. Awesome.
Alex Sente, Honorary Consul of Hungary.
John Shumlas, Honorary Consul of the Republic of Poland for Alberta North. Hello.
Zygmunt Potocki, Honorary Consul of the Republic of Poland in Alberta South, Calgary.
John Tomczak, the National President of the Canadian Polish Congress in Canada.
Anna Sente, Canadian President of the Hungarian Diaspora Council. I don't think she came.
Eva Toldi, President of the Canadian-Hungarian
Cultural Society.
Cultural Society of Edmonton. Not
Doesn't
here.
appear to be here, but let's give her a hand.
Had good intentions, though,
Yes.
things.
Orysia Boychuk, President of the Ukrainian Canadian Congress Provincial Council.
Marila Hasek, President of the Polish-Canadian Society in Edmonton.
Marianna Kwiatkowska, President of the Polish Seniors 2004. I know she's here.
Jagoda Wilk, Vice President of the Canadian Polish Congress, Alberta Society from Grand Prairie.
And Zbigniew Starczyk, President of the Polish Combatants Association, Branch 18 in Calgary.
Read that? Okay. We would also like to welcome those members of the Centennial Memorial Committee who were able to come and join us. I will read the entire list of the board of directors of that committee because they made it possible. Starting with Józef Bereżnicki, the chairman, Kazimierz Walewski, Professor Karol Krótki, no longer with us, Debbie Sarnecki-Seipert, Frank Polański, Bruno Bochiński, Leszek Ignasiak, Ludwik Lechociński, Adam Świerczyński, John Shumlas, Waldemar Szymański, Jan Tereszczenko i Danek Możdżyński, jak również Jan Pierzchajło.
And now I have the pleasure of introducing the first speaker this afternoon, who just happens to be my partner, Jarek Nowinka, and he will give you a summary of the 5 waves of Polish immigration and settlement in Alberta.
It's just for efficiency. I'm the first because I'm next to her.
Yeah.
Your Honor, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor and pleasure for me to speak to you today on the day that we're celebrating the Polish settlement in Alberta and also the unveiling of the monument on the legislature grounds. As some of you may know, this is not the first unveiling of this monument, but the first one actually took place in June 2000. It was at that time situated next to the Polish Hall here in Edmonton. but it was 20 years ago, and I was actually told that we should add one more wave of immigration since then, but I think we're still in the 5th wave, so I think we're okay. So before I share my remarks about the waves of immigration, I do want to once again make some acknowledgements of those special contributors who made the monument project possible and completed its creation. And again, I will start with Joe Bereźnicki, who's a past president of the Canadian Polish Congress and whose vision and perseverance allowed the monument project to be completed. And Joe, you're my mentor, always have been, and I promised you that eventually we'll have the monument with the tablets. So now I'm delivering on the promise, okay? Thank you. Well, members of the Centennial Memorial Committees, I mentioned Jan Troszczenko and Pierzchajło and Danek Możdżeński. There's also the artisan sculptor Chu Hon-soon. He's actually the designer of the monument. Polish Heritage Society of Edmonton, that's the organization who carried out the project, and monument sports sponsors, including Alberta Foundation for the Arts, several Polonia organizations, and private donors too numerous to mention. So please join me in a round of applause for all the professionals and all the volunteers who contributed to this. The monument theme encompasses 5 waves of Polish immigration to Alberta from 1885 till present. Those waves are described in the images inscribed in the monument cone and also described in the tablets surrounding the monument base. The first wave started in 1885 when Poland was still partitioned and missing from the map of the world. And at that time, from the poor regions of Poland like Galicia, peasants emigrated in search for lands that would feed them. Having come to Western Canada and to Alberta, they cleared forests and built farms, and some of them actually settled in the Crow's Nest Pass area and worked in the coal mines. As true pioneers, they kept together, they helped one another, determined to keep their traditions and language, Polish, I guess. They built churches, they built community halls. In 1902, there was the first Polish chapel built in Krakow in Alberta. And then St. Stanislaus Church in Round Hill was consecrated in 1905 and serves the community until today, as do other numerous Polish churches. Poland regained independence in 1918, and with great optimism, Poles endeavored to rebuild their country. Poland developed quickly but disproportionately, so the emigration continued until the Second World War. Those who came to Alberta in that time established the first organizations in the community. So, for example, Polish Canadian Society in Edmonton was formed in 1927, and Polish Veterans Society in 1938. And the first Polish hall here in Edmonton was built in 1932. In Calgary, the first classes in a Polish school started in 1934. When the Second World War broke out, numerous Poles living in Alberta enlisted in the Canadian Armed Forces. Others worked in the military industry. After the war, many soldiers did not want to go back to Poland, who at that time was governed by the communist government under the Soviet dominance. And Canada opened its borders to them and just welcomed the third wave of immigration. Having come to Alberta, those freedom fighters utilized their military discipline and organizational skills So they started new careers and progressed and actually formed new organizations as well. In 1947, the Edmonton branch of the Polish Combatants Association was established, and also within that wave, the first Polish Saturday school in Edmonton, the Henryk Sienkiewicz School, started in 1954. The fourth wave, we're already on the fourth wave, so one more to go after that. The fourth wave of Polish immigration to Alberta spent the years 1956 to 1995. It started as a trickle with academics and researchers leaving Poland in the 60s. With the political situation relaxing in the 70s, at the same time the economic conditions deteriorated. So traveling freely, the young Poles would quite often look for new opportunities in the West. And a true wave of immigration came actually in the 80s, during the years of solidarity and also after the martial law in Poland. Thousands of immigrants came to Alberta at that time. They were well educated, so they did find jobs, professional jobs as university professors, engineers, doctors, businessmen, together with the descendants of the prior generations. They also formed new organizations that were better adapted to the Canadian conditions. They were young and dynamic, so it wasn't long until a market for the new Polish school was created, and so a unique Polish-English bilingual program started in 1985, and also Maria Chrzanowska School here in Edmonton started in 1991. The fifth wave is the current one. It is ongoing as new generations of Albertans of Polish descent continue to live and work here. They're successful, they're serving the province in respective professions and prominent roles. As businessmen with global perspective, quite often they would actually go back to Poland not only because of the sentiment, but because there are new business opportunities there. Our children and our youth travel to Poland to visit families and take part in cultural events. And at the same time, their cousins from Poland come to Alberta and enjoy the stay here. I'm not talking about the pandemic restrictions, but outside of it. We're happy to see the friendly relationships between Canada and Poland grow and the economic cooperation expand and the links multiply. This is like having the best of both worlds for Albertans of Polish descent. So we hope that the history of the Polish immigration to Alberta will continue in this cooperative spirit. But one thing is certain, all waves of Polish immigration and their descendants have benefited from the opportunities afforded to them by virtue of becoming Canadian and by calling Alberta home. So just as strong as we continue to love and remember Poland as our ancestral home, we will continue to work for the benefit of Alberta and for our bright future here. So we thank Poland for the upbringing of the Polish nation, and we thank Alberta for the place we live in now. Thank you. We're not doing the questions, right?
No, no questions today. Because if there were questions, then we would have to have a test or something, so that's not good.
All right.
Thank you, Jarek. For those of us who forgot, not many of us forgot, but it's good to be reminded of how we all came to be here. Right now, I would like to ask Her Honor to come to the podium and deliver greetings. Her Honor, Salma Lakhani.
Elected officials, consul generals, honorary consul generals, event organizers, and all of you distinguished guests. Hello, everyone. I wish to begin by saying that as treaty people, we acknowledge all our First People who have called this place home for thousands of years and who welcomed us here to make our own lives. May we always dwell together on these lands with respect and peace. It is a special pleasure for my husband and myself to join you in celebrating the contributions of the many Polish settlers who have come to this land over the last 136 years to build a new life for themselves as well as the generations of Polish Albertans since, who have played an active role in fostering the strength, vibrancy, and prosperity of all our communities. Alberta would not be the province it is today without the continuing contributions of members of our Polish community in education, healthcare, and the sciences, the arts, and of course in politics. A few months ago, I had the pleasure of formally recognizing these valued contributions when I granted royal assent to a private member's bill establishing the second Sunday in June as Polish-Canadian Heritage Day in Alberta. Now, one remarkable thing that I'd like to point out about the bill is that it was presented to me after moving through second reading, committee of the whole, and third reading in a single evening. Anyone familiar with the legislative process will tell you that that was a considerable feat and a reflection of the broad support for the initiative across party lines. That bill and the monument that we are unveiling today are meaningful expressions of an essential truth about who we are as Canadians. They celebrate the fact that our rich multicultural traditions are amongst our greatest assets. They remind us that we are made stronger as a whole when every citizen is encouraged to freely and proudly share the full beauty of their culture and heritage with their neighbors and with all community members. Her Majesty the Queen's representative in Alberta, I offer my heartfelt thanks to everyone who has supported this great initiative, including Alberta government leaders and all elected officials, the Polish Consul General and honorary consuls, and President Helena Mede and members of the Canadian Polish Congress Alberta Society. I hope that this monument will serve to inform and inspire people from all walks of life for many, many years to come. Thank you all. Please stay well and enjoy this special day of celebration. Thank you.
Your Honor, if you could stay, and I will ask Helena Made to come forward to help Her Honor.
No child should ever be raped. No child should ever be murdered.
So we would also like to invite Honorable Ronald Orr to come to the monument base here, as well as Consul Andrzej Majkowski. And that will be the official cutting of the ribbon ceremony. So Halina, I think you have the tools. Photo opportunity.
Yeah, photo ops are very important.
Prosimy do zdjęcia.
Yeah, we'll get them on.
Okay. Just ask them to stop.
I would like to ask now Ronald Orr, the Minister of Culture, and Andrzej, no, first we'll go with, I'm so excited that we finally got our monument going here.
It's worth being excited about.
Yeah, isn't it?
Awesome.
So, Mr. Orr.
Thank you very much. Wonderful to be here. Good afternoon, and Her Honor and distinguished guests, many of you, welcome today. And so thankful that you could all be here. And it is a pleasure to join all of you on Treaty 6 territory, which we share with the nations of Treaty 6, as well as the Métis people. And our provinces welcome many people from around the world to build homes, to raise their families, to help grow their communities. And today, especially, we celebrate a Polish community, that you are here and that you are part of these peoples as well with all of us. And just glad that you could all be here and that we can celebrate this wonderful monument. Actually quite interesting. I'm going to have to take some time after to study it and to read all the placards and see what it has to say. First Polish immigrants arrived in Canada, or Alberta actually, more than 100 years ago, as we have said. And since then, Albertans of Polish heritage have accomplished great things and made enormous contributions to this province. Somebody needs to write a couple of books about that, those of you that know, but please do. Some of your ancestors may have built some of the first farms, may have helped construct the railroad that actually united this country, were pioneers in the energy industry that has fueled this province and helped us to grow, and in so many other ways. One of the greatest examples of the determination and commitment of these early pioneers is the Sakura Shrine, located northeast of Edmonton. I trust many of you will be aware of that. It was built in 1919. The builders cleared the land using only shovels and axes, and then with horses and wagons carted 600 loads of stone to the site to build that magnificent structure. It continues to be a destination for pilgrims to this day in Alberta, and ties the descendants of those early pioneers to their heritage, to their community, and to our current life. The subsequent waves of immigration, as you have heard about, from Poland continue to bring hardworking, resilient people to the prairies. My uncle, actually, by marriage, was Polish. I remember the day he was so excited to be able to go back, and he actually found the little village in the very house where he came from in Poland. It was quite a few years ago. And he as well contributed to his community, to his church, to the economic vitality of where he lived through businesses that he started, and quite honestly, very personally to me as well, as a very supportive individual that I have always been thankful for. Today, Alberta is home to the second largest population of Polish Canadians out of all of the provinces of Canada. I just want to thank all of you for helping to build this province, contributing to the diversity of it, the unique cultural identity that we have, which is partly yours. And whether you came to this land 100 years ago or a year ago, your presence here today helps strengthen this community. You help strengthen our province and our lives together as a people. So thank you for inviting me to participate in this, for being part of the unveiling here with you today. And on behalf of the Alberta government, I truly thank you and welcome every one of you, and may you continue to build this province and live prosperous and joyful lives here in Alberta. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Minister. Now we'd like to invite Consul Mańkowski. Zapraszamy do mikrofonu, panie konsulu.
Thank you. Your Honor, honorable ministers, Member of Parliament, members of Legislative Assembly, Consul General, special guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very honored to be here today. I'm very glad that the invitation to participate in this ceremony was accepted by representatives of other ethnic organizations. I'm particularly pleased with the participation of the representative of Ukrainian diaspora, as Poles share many common roots and historical experience with Ukrainians, which is particularly visible here in Alberta. The monument of Polish settlement in Alberta is dedicated to the successive waves of immigration from Poland to Alberta and describes the story of these 5-6 generations of Polish Canadians. A small percentage of this community has Polish citizenship, and even fewer know Polish language now, today. However, many of them remember about their Polish ancestors who are pioneers on the prairies. Poles in Alberta had humble beginnings, but as Minister Clifford Sifton said in July 1899 in the House of Commons about Galicians, mostly Ukrainians and Poles from Austro-Hungarian Empire, I quote, "So far as their general habits are concerned, I may say that they are people who have lived in poverty. That is no crime on their past. I do not think that we as members of House of Commons are prepared to say that we would not allow people to come into Canada because they have been unfortunate enough to live in poverty. I venture to say that the ancestors of many prominent citizens were poor in the countries whence they came, and nobody thinks less of them on that account. So, as far as I understand, such a principle of allowing the talents, potential, and energy of newcomers to be used for the development of the country was and still remains the foundation of the Canadian society. I am glad that today in Alberta the descendants of Polish immigrants keep the memory of their roots and think about Poland with pride, and as does the Canadian snowboarder Kimiko Zakreski from Edmonton, who wrote about Canada on her Facebook. Canada, a country that has welcomed my grandparents, both Polish and Japanese, to immigrate and settle. I'm proud Japanese Polish Canadian who is able to represent this great country in the 2010 Olympics. Today, the most active group of Poles here are the families who settled in Alberta during the declining period of communism in Poland. Taking advantage of freedom and democracy in Canada, they achieved and still achieve successes in their professional life, and, like representatives of previous waves of Polish immigration, they very quickly assimilate to the Albertan cultural mosaic and create, together with the other ethnic groups, the identity of today's Alberta. The monument of Polish settlement in Canada, in Alberta, is a symbolic expression of appreciations of a broad group of Canadian of Polish background, creating Canada's multicultural society. And me, as a Consul General of Republic of Poland, I would like to express my gratitude to all who made today's ceremony possible. Let this monument be a permanent reminder of the history of Poles in Alberta, a history which began with the taking of famous photo of Fort Edmonton in 1872 by Canadian photographer with Polish but also Ukrainian and Scottish roots, Charles Horecki. This monument is not a monument to Poles. It's a monument to Polish Canadians. Alberta, more than 100 years ago, became a homeland of thousands of Poles. And we know, I address to Polish guests, we know, to quote the words of Polish great poet, homeland is a great collective duty. So apart from the fact this is a monument, it's also a symbol for us, and it's also a commitment. Canada settlement in Canada means co-creating society and joint building of the province, and it was the challenge and the obligation for Polish pioneers and immigrants from the beginning of their existence here on the territories of province of Alberta. So may this monument be an inspiration to develop a new formula for the activities of Polish diaspora in Alberta, corresponding to its importance in Canadian society. Let it be an inspiration to draw pride and energy for further efforts and work for Alberta and Poland. Thank you.
Well, we negotiate a little bit about who's doing what. I get the best ones, and then he gets... Well, anyway, and now it's time for me to invite Father Adam Lech, Chancellor of the Archdiocese, to bless the monument. Father?
Thank you. Thank you. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Eternal God, source of every gift and talent, through your Son, Jesus Christ, you grant us your blessing so that Canada, with all its people, may be continually nourished and strengthened. We give you honor and praise for the courageous generation of Polish immigrants. We pray for your blessing upon this monument and this place. May this space ever inspire our continuous gratitude and afford us the opportunities for reflection upon the great values the Polish people brought to Canada and how they enrich this beautiful country by their arrival. Amen. Thank you.
So many papers.
All right, thank you, Father.
Can I do the first one? Can I?
Really? No,
Can I?
Okay,
Can I?
go ahead.
Okay, so now is the time for us to receive greetings from various distinguished guests. And first of all, I would like to ask Heather Mcpherson, Member of Parliament for Edmonton Strathcona, to bring greetings.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all very much for inviting me to join you on this momentous occasion to celebrate Poland's heritage and the contribution of Poles to the culture of Canada. I would also like to thank the Canadian Polish Congress for organizing this important event, even for so much hard work and commitment for this event. And I would like to take a moment to acknowledge, of course, that we are on Treaty 6 territory. And Canada does have a very complicated past, a very complicated present. We have a colonial past where you know, I am the daughter of a settler that came over, not the daughter of a settler that came over 100 years ago, but my family has been here for over 100 years. And we recognize that we came to a land that already had people here. And I think we need to recognize that. I think many Canadians are coming to terms with things that were done in this country, to children in this country. And I think that this summer was something that we all came to terms with as the children were discovered in residential schools, their graves were discovered. So I do want to acknowledge that. I know that we can hear that there are people that are protesting, and I think ignoring that doesn't help. I think it is important to acknowledge it and make sure that we hear that and that we acknowledge the wrongs that have been done and commit to working better. Thank you. So as was mentioned, my name is Heather Mcpherson. I am the Member of Parliament for Edmonton Strathcona, or I guess we will find out if I am the Member of Parliament for Edmonton Strathcona next week. Right now I am the candidate to be the Member of Parliament for Edmonton Strathcona. I'm also the Vice Chair of the Canada-Ukraine Friendship Association, and I have the great honor to bring you greetings from the Parliament of Canada. I want to congratulate everyone involved for the unveiling of this strikingly beautiful monument. It's an impressive testament to the people of Poland, to Polish Canadians, and it perfectly captures the strength and determination of the Polish settlers who came to Alberta to build a better life for themselves and a better Canada for all of us. When we think of Polish settlers in Alberta, we think of wheat farmers who helped make our prairies the breadbasket of Canada. The men and women who toiled long and hard and who represented us on this remarkable piece of art. But we also know that many early settlers also helped build our cities and our institutions. And over the past 150 years, Polish immigrants and their descendants, teachers and engineers, doctors and lawyers, architects and business leaders, and even politicians, have made Alberta the vibrant and prosperous place it is today. This monument is for them, for all of them. It is to thank them for what they have done for all of us. And it is for many generations to come. So thank you all for being here today. Thank you for those who have put this monument with us here. Future generations will know what Polish settlement in Alberta has done, what Polish settlers have done to build this province. On behalf of my colleagues in the House of Commons, congratulations, and thank you for letting me be here today.
All right. Thanks very much. Dan Williams, member of the legislature of Alberta, can we invite you to bring greetings as well? Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dan Williams, and I was honored to be the one that Her Honor had mentioned, brought forward that private member's bill to recognize the contribution of Polish Canadians in this province. And I was very honored to be invited to Holy Mass this morning at Holy Rosary beforehand. And it was a beautiful liturgy, as Sunday Mass always is, and I was moved by the statue out front of that parish, which many of you know. It's a statue of St. John Paul II. On my mother's side, I'm Polish, and she would always say, "You just would not, your grandfather would not believe it. We have a Polish Pope." She was so incredibly proud of what Poland had done and to contribute, and what John Paul had done in his work as Pope, also in tearing down communism, and the work he did to bring light to civilization, a humanizing light to the Western world. And I think it says something that at the church, where for many of the Polish people, the place of worship, where the divine meets the earthly, that we have certain statues and icons that represent what matters most to the Polish people in that place of worship, as all people in their own respective place of worship will have their own priorities there in their icons and their statues and the ways that they represent that. And I look now here at the legislative building behind us, the beautiful sandstone building that was quarried out of the slopes of Alberta's foothills. And that there is not the same as a church. It is different. It is the place where the rule of law is made, where with the authority of the state, with the authority of Her Majesty the Queen, we legislators decide what will be the common rules that govern all of us. And on its grounds, on the legislature's grounds, here today, we have a monument that talks about what the priority for us as Albertans is. That priority is recognizing across the grounds, particularly here in this monument, those who came before, those who gave a gift, the gift of our ancestors to us today, the gift of all the Poles in this particular monument that came and settled. My own grandparents came from Poland in the early 1900s and eventually settled a farm, what was the north edge of arable land at the time, north of Barhead. And from that 1/4 section of land, there's a farm there now that's much grown. My cousin still farms it. But my mother was a teacher. My aunts and uncles were lawyers and doctors, pipe fitters. They work in the oil and gas industry. They've expanded. They've moved across this country. They've had children themselves. My own son, Benedict, was born just 2 months ago, and his middle name is named after my grandfather, Joseph, from Poland. This is a gift from our ancestor to us today. We must recognize that gift given to us. There is something wonderful that we must recognize in these 5 waves of Polish settlers that came. Something we must recognize in all Canadians and what they've contributed. From my own ancestry, it was 1 1/4 section that gave so much. But I know that story can be replicated and magnified in each of you here today, in each of your families. I think it is incredibly important that we recognize the gift that was given to us by our ancestors. And that's why here, on the grounds of the legislature, the place where the rule of law stands, we recognize the Polish people, Polish Canadians, and the contribution they've made to Alberta. So I thank all of you very much for coming. Please be very proud of your heritage, and please be very proud of the work that your ancestors have done to bring us to this point. God bless you.
I'd now like to invite Alexander Danileko, Consul General of Ukraine, to bring greetings.
Thank you very much. Your Honor, Salma Lakhani, Lieutenant Governor of Alberta, Minister Orr, Minister Madu, I see you have a lot of work to do with Polish and Ukrainian communities these days, even on your weekends. And thank you very much for being with us, for celebrating with us this important for our communities events. Members of the House of Commons, members of the Alberta Legislature, City Council, honored guests. Thank you for inviting me to this remarkable celebration of the Polish settlement in Canada and unveiling of the monument dedicated to this event. It is an honor for me, as a for diplomatic representative of Ukraine here in Alberta, to attend this gathering. Poland and Ukraine are neighbors and good friends, and I'm sure that our communities here in Alberta should be also very good friends and work together. Just 5 days ago, we celebrated Ukrainian Canadian Heritage Day and 130th anniversary of first Ukrainian settlement here in Canada. Today, we celebrate the Polish settlement in Canada and unveil this symbolic monument dedicated to this event. And it shows us how diverse Canada is, how many nations contributed to the social economic development of this country, how many nations brought here their culture, traditions, and heritage that makes this country great and diverse. History of Poles and Ukrainians in Canada is already an integral and important part of Canada's history. And it's very important to preserve this history for future generations, to keep the memory of our ancestors our culture and traditions. I'm sure that this beautiful monument will serve as a symbol of living history of Polish settlers here in Canada and as a tribute from the modern generation of Polish Canadians to their ancestors. Having Consul General of Poland together with us today, I cannot help but take this opportunity to thank Poland for continuous and comprehensive support of Ukraine, for advocating our interest in the European Union and other international organizations, and for assisting us building democratic, sovereign, and prosperous Ukraine. Thank you very much. Drodzy polski przyjaciele, serdecznie gratuluję tego święta i życzę Polskie i Polakom w Albercie wszystkiego najlepszego. Bardzo dziękuję. Thank you very much.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah, that's you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. That was a nice accent at the end there. Awesome. Well, obviously done a lot of progress. Ken Kowalski, can we ask you, as a former Speaker of the Legislature, and I had the chance to listen to your stories not long ago at the Harvest event, and that's it was very interesting. We're glad to have you back.
Thank you very much, Master and Mistress of Ceremonies, Your Honors, ministers, members of the Consular Corps, members of the clergy, and all of you, ladies and gentlemen, as very distinguished guests here today. We're talking about waves of people coming to this province, and particularly people of the Polish community. My grandfather, on my father's side, Peter Kowalski, came to this country in 1908 from an area east of Krakow. Today, it's located in the Ternopil Oblast in Ukraine. My grandfather and his family on my mother's side came from just south of Warsaw in 1930. Many Polish people that came to Canada and the Canadian West at that time went to very dedicated places that may have had mining in it, like the Crow's Nest Pass and other places. Many, of course, came to Edmonton. Both sets of my grandparents went, however, to north and east of the city of Edmonton. They went to places like Thorhild, eventually to Glendon, and then to a Francophone community called Bonnyville. So we had a lot of mixing to do. We had Poles, we had Ukrainians, we had Francophones, we had people of other cultures and what have you. But I left that area and I went to northwestern Alberta. And over the years, found myself invigorated once again with all of these marvelous people who were coming to the Canadian West, who were coming here to build this Canadian West, and were coming here to be a part of the Canadian Western mosaic. So, by luck, this Polish kid who lives in a Francophone community, or grows up in a Francophone community, ends up in another community in which there are no Poles or Ukrainians or people of Slavic heritage living in it. I decided to run for a position in that building behind you. So I got elected in 1979 and I stayed there till 2012, 33 years. And Mistress of Ceremonies, yes, I am the fourth longest serving MLA in the history of Alberta. I'm a Polish guy. And along the way, we meet other people. Walter Paszkowski and I served at the same time. Thomas Lukasiuk and I served at the same time. At one time, that's 3 Polish guys out of 83. Every one of us a minister, 2 of us deputy premiers, and then later on, one becomes a speaker. Now, that's the first Polish guy who'd ever done any of those things in the history of Alberta. So if anybody ever comes to me and tells me we can't do it because we're immigrants or the children of immigrants, not so in this Alberta. This Alberta is for everyone. This Alberta is a home for the future. It thanks the past, but it goes forward, always goes forward. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm just so honored to have been here because the people who got behind this project, by the way, were working on it in the 1990s. It had been erected once, placed once beside the Polish Hall here in Edmonton, and then in the early decade, Consul General from the Ukraine, just around the bend was a monument was put up to signify the arrival of the first Ukrainian pioneer, which I was very pleased to have been involved in then. But then, in 2012, I left. It's time to go. I'm a very young man, but I still have to retire. And one of the last decisions that I got to make was the approval that the Speaker would give for the erection of monuments on these grounds. And at that time, hand in hand with the Polish community and all the leaders at the time who'd worked so hard before for nearly 20 years, this spot was selected. It was a choosing of the Polish people who worked on the project for the monument to want it located on this side of the grounds. To me, it's a magnificent spot. It talks about the history of these very determined people that have come to this country and made it what it is today. And ladies and gentlemen, we're all proud of who we are. All of us are proud of who we are. I'm particularly fortunate and proud to say that I came to this country. I was born in this country because my grandfathers came to this country, and they gave us life, and they gave us prosperity, and they gave us hope, and they gave us an education, and they gave us an opportunity to raise our children and, bless us all, our grandchildren. Congratulations again. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Teresa and I were wondering whether Alan Machowicz actually made it to the crowd. We wanted to greet him as a Polish prince who also has a distinguished career in our judiciary system. He's the former Chief Justice of Alberta's Court of Queen's Bench. But I don't see Alan, so maybe he will just join us a little bit later.
Thank you. Now I'd like to invite Councillor John Jadek from the City of Edmonton to bring greetings. Please.
Well, thank you very much. Good day, Your Honor, elected officials, diplomats, clergy, community leaders, former elected officials, ladies and gentlemen. Great turnout today, and I'm pleased to be here. I'm John Zadek, the Ward 3 City Councillor, and I'm here on behalf of Edmonton City Council, including Councillor Mike Nickel, who's with us in the crowd today, to mark this occasion and celebrate Polish contributions in Alberta, and for me, more specifically, in Edmonton. Cities, towns, villages, and homesteads are where people lay down their roots. It's where we can gather with shelter to put our feet up at the end of a hard day's work. And yes, there has been a lot of hard work and resilience from our Polish community. Edmonton started small, but we have grown by welcoming newcomers from around the world. Polish settlers have helped build this city. The hardworking Polish people have helped build our roads, our buildings, and have started many small businesses. The Polish culture has enriched Canadian culture. Polish traditions have become Canadian traditions. Polish cuisine has become Canadian cuisine. Edmonton is a better city because of the sizable number of Poles who have settled here, and I want to thank everyone for their contributions. I know that the situation in Poland has been difficult in modern history. I am pleased that Poland is a proud member of NATO, and that Canada and Poland work together to maintain security in Eastern Europe, with many members of the Canadian Armed Forces being of Polish descent and based right here in Edmonton. So here in Edmonton, I believe our main story is one of acceptance and yet not forgetting where we came from. Still, I've heard stories of hardship and discrimination, but ultimately, and I believe this should be our story, it's a story of perseverance, acceptance, and hope. It is important that our province remains open to newcomers as a refuge from other lands. When people come here, I want them to feel welcome, and I want them to know that we value their contributions. We sure do in the city of Edmonton, and as a city councillor here, I want to thank everyone for calling here home. Thank you.
Thanks very much. We'd like to invite Janusz, John Tomczyk, the national president of the Canadian Polish Congress. Are we out? No, we're back on. Janusz, you were one of the team that brought this monument from the Polish whole location to this location. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Your Honor, Salma Lakhani, Lieutenant Governor of Alberta, Honorable Ministers and members of Canadian Parliament, Alberta Legislature, and the City of Edmonton. Consul General of Poland, Andrzej Mańkowski, Consul General of Ukraine, Alexander Danielko, and members of Diplomatic Corps. Mrs. Halina Madej, President of Canadian Polish Congress, Alberta branch, past presidents of Canadian Polish Congress, organizations of Polish organizations and Ukrainian Congress, and Hungary diaspora, in great city and great province of Alberta, honor guests. I am pleased to bring special greetings on behalf of the Canadian Polish Congress Head Executive Board, which represents more than 1 million strong Polish community in Canada. Over 88 years ago, Federation of Polish Societies in Canada was granted federal status. As the first ever national Canadian Polish Congress elected from Western Canada, I am very proud to participate in unveiling of the Polish Centennial Monument here in my home province of Alberta. Previously, I served as the president of Alberta branch of Canadian Polish Congress, and it was leading project of successfully community efforts to move this monument from temporary location at the Polish Hall to its permanent home here on the grounds of Alberta Legislature. I would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone who contributed to their vision in support and their years of hard work to make this monument a reality. Especially I thank people who had directly working with me on this project in years 2016-19, namely former member of Legislature Assembly of Alberta, Brian Mason, who was minister approved of our project, as well as Tomasz Łukaszuk, who helped prepare all necessary documentation. My former Vice President Maryla Hasek and the Board of Directors of Canadian Polish Congress Alberta branch, Professor Wacław Osadnik, Dr. Jarek Rowinka, and Agata Guzik, who work on inscriptions on monuments plaques. Polish organizations and members of Polonia who generously contributed their time and money to this project. Alberta government officials, particularly in facility managers from legislature grants, Loreta Bienek. And finally, Jan Pierzchajło, he is somewhere there at the back, who deserves special recognition for his remarkable commitment to and his technical coordination on this project over the years. I hope and trust that the work done by so many people over the 25 years to establish this monument will succeed in bringing our proud Polish heritage and Alberta immigration story closer to the future generations of Albertans, both those of Polish heritage and those from among our many diverse community. And we acknowledge Territory 6 in Alberta. Thank you.
Can I do the next one?
Do you really want to?
Yeah, I do really.
Really?
Want to. Yeah.
Really? Okay.
I'll tell you one. Okay, we're going to invite Anna Senta, the Canadian president of Hungarian Diaspora Council. And while you're approaching, I can just remembered I do know a sentence in Hungarian. It goes like Magyar Lengyel Egyid Borat. And I believe that means that the Hungarian guy and the Polish guy are like brothers. So with that, come on.
Thank you very much, Your Honor, honorable guests, ministers, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great pleasure to bring greetings on behalf of 375,000 Canadian with Hungarian ancestry in Canada and all the Hungarians in Alberta of the occasion of the recognition of Polish settlement in Alberta. Between 1870 and 1914, approximately 3.6 million Polish people left Poland and came to the West, mainly to the US and into Canada. A small portion of these immigrants ended up in Alberta, facing the harsh, undeveloped prairie with the extreme weather and the uncultivated land where they built churches and schools and made home for themselves and for their families. Alberta grew rapidly in these years as settlers began to transform the barren prairie flatland and established unique cultural settlements. I don't have to emphasize how important it is to recognize our roots and honor those who made some ultimate sacrifice. It is very important in this multicultural country of ours to remember where we came from. It's said many times that we only can have a future if we recognize our past and honor our history. Polish people, just like Hungarians, are proud of their roots and tirelessly working to keep the Polish language and heritage alive in Canada for future generations. I'm proud to call many of yours friends, and having our common history makes us have a special bond which only Polish and Hungarian people can understand. It goes like this. Polak, Węgier, dwa bratanki, i do szabli, i do szlanki. Oba zyche, oba żwawi, niech im Pan Bóg błogosławi. Which translates roughly to Poles and Hungarians, two brothers, good for saber and for glass, both courageous, both lively. May God bless them all, and may God bless you all. Thank you very much.
You obviously know more Polish than I Hungarian. Thank you very much.
It's now time to invite another friend up. Orysia Boychuk, President of the Ukrainian Canadian Congress Provincial Council. Please bring greetings.
Your Honor, Salma Lakani, Lieutenant Governor of Alberta, Member of Parliament Heather Mcpherson, Minister Orr, and Minister Madu, elected officials, formally elected officials, dear clergy, sister, and distinguished guests. As Andre, the Consul General of the Republic of Poland, had indicated, Polish and Ukrainian Canadians have a very common history in Alberta. Our ancestors arrived in the mid-1890s and lived side by side in the communities built by such as St. Michael, Skaro, Wostock, and we supported each other. We learned from each other. We struggled together, and we succeeded together. From the very first Polish immigrants in the 1890s to today, Polish Canadians have continued to honor and preserve their language, history, culture, and traditions. Alberta's success and prosperity would simply not be possible without almost 200,000 Polish Albertans who call this beautiful, prosperous province home. Many of you immigrated from Poland in the 1980s and in 1990s. This was a very turbulent time in Poland when the Polish quest for freedom, justice, prosperity led to one of the greatest democratic movements of the 20th century. Solidarity and the overthrow of the communist totalitarianism. If it was not for the Polish people's quest for freedom, much of Eastern Europe, including Ukraine, would not have thrown off the Russian yoke. You brought those qualities about truth, justice, and freedom with you here to Alberta. And the legacy of the Polish Canadians built is a strong example of the ways through which an ethnic group can impact upon the wider social and political dynamics of the nation of which they constitute a part of. On behalf of the Ukrainian Canadian Congress, Alberta Provincial Council, it is my honor to offer congratulations to the Polish community for the installation of this beautiful monument to the Polish immigrants that call and continue to call Alberta home. Your sacrifices, successes, and examples of the foundations of our community, we are so proud of all of you, what you've achieved, and we have confidence that the future of the Polish-Canadian community in Alberta will be one of prosperous and success. Dziękuję bardzo.
It's your turn. Okay, all right. We'd like to invite Zygmunt Potocki, our honorary consul of the Republic of Poland for Alberta South, visiting from Calgary. Hey, Zygmunt.
Your Honor, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor for me to be here on this historic day for the Polish community in Alberta. September 12, 2021 will be remembered in the community in Alberta in the history of Polish settlement in a unique way to bring Polish settlement and special for the dedicated our countrymen who made a very difficult and risky decision to leave the homeland and look for better place to live in Alberta. Ogromną pracą poświęcili się dla swojego nowego miejsca. Tym miejscem była i jest dla tysięcy polskich emigrantów Alberta. I would like to address to all those who contributed to the creation of this monument. It is a beautiful gift for future generation of Polish diaspora of Alberta. A big thank you to the representative of Alberta government for the opportunity to locate this monument next to the government building, this unique, fantastic place. Wielce szanowni goście, panowie, pragnę skierować słowa najwyższego uznania oraz gratulacje dla wszystkich członków Komitetu Budowy Pomnika, Kongresu Polonii Kanadyjskiej, Oddziału Alberta, polonijnych organizacji w Albercie oraz wszystkim osobom dobrej woli w realizacji tego projektu. Niech dzisiejszy dzień, 12 września 2021, stanie się wyrazem naszego wspólnego hołdu dla tych, którzy na niego w pełni zasłużyli. Dla polskich bohaterów przybyłych tu na przestrzeni ponad 100 lat do Alberty. To oni budowali dla przyszłych pokoleń Polaków małą ojczyznę, Polskę, tutaj właśnie w Albercie. Niech pamięć o tych bohaterach pozostanie w naszych sercach na zawsze. Thank you very much.
It's now my turn, to ask John Shumlis, the Honorary Consul for the Republic of Poland for Alberta North here in Edmonton. John.
Thank you very much. Your Honor, I have to start by saying that this morning, before I went to Mass, one of the MCs phoned me, and he says, I just came back from a run. I'm soaking wet. Are you sure we should not relocate this? And I says, Yarrick, you have no faith. I'm going to church. There are many of us are going to church. By the time that it comes time for me to speak, the sun is going to be shining through. Yeah. Your Honor, special guest, so, in a minute or so that I have to say a few words, permit me to draw your attention to one individual who is with us this afternoon. You know, we've all been taught that leadership is the capacity to translate vision into reality. And we all understand that without reason, there is no purpose. And without purpose, there is no passion. And without passion, and it is that passion that drives us to achieve great things for all. Some 30 years ago, this one individual had a vision. And only through his dogged determination, we have this testament of the evolution of our Canadian Polish community in this, our great province. Your Honor, my parents and two older brothers were part of the third wave, arriving in Taber, Alberta in 1948, in a place where I was born, and followed by two younger brothers. My two brothers that came with my parents were born in a refugee camp in Germany. And when my mother had to feed 5 little people like me, she was very busy. But it was because of our parents' Catholic faith and their driven desire to ensure that our success would be their success if we were educated, if we were compassionate, if we were understanding, and if we had hard work. So when I witnessed the leadership of this individual, who selfishly volunteered so much to foster an inclusive community here in this city, in this great province, I knew that I needed to become a disciple of his. And so it is such an honor to stand before you, Your Honor, and to all of these special people to give recognition to this one man who is with us today, Mr. Joseph Bereznicki. And I want everybody to acknowledge it was his vision, his desire, his determination that this monument is with us today. And it was because of his leadership that we were able to achieve so much. And with the leadership of our young people, Maya's going to be playing here momentarily, a young, absolutely incredible violinist, that all of us together with our Ukrainians, our Hungarians, our First Nations people, with all of us, we will continue to build a great province. Thank you very much, Your Honor. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you and have a nice sunny day.
And here I thought we had the sun because Father Adam was so eloquent in his invocation and blessing. But it was John, what can I say? Now I have the great pleasure and even honor to introduce a young lady whom we've seen here in the Polish and not only Polish community grow into a talented, very talented and internationally recognized young woman. I would like to introduce you to Maya Budzińska, who's going to play for us this afternoon. Jarek has some things he needs to tell you, so please listen.
Well, we're coming to the closure of our event. Therese, don't put me on the spot here. Yes, thank you very much for coming and for attending and for, let's see how we did on time. We are actually ahead of schedule, believe it or not. I know how it happened, but probably Therese, your MC.
Well, with a little influence.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. But we'll not draw it out. So thanks to the province of Alberta for welcoming the monument right here on this prestigious location. And we'd like to say, Therese and I, we were both seeing it as the monument belonging to all Albertans. It's kind of like recognizing the cultural mosaic of our city, and it's an invitation from our community, the Polonia community, for others to come and visit us here and work together for the benefit of our province.
So true. In fact, recently I was reminded that although this is, the legislature, it's, we were told today about its, law and so on, but I was also recently reminded that this is the people's house. And it's very appropriate for us to be able to come here today with our friends from the different ethnic communities, as well as our elected officials, and of course, it wouldn't have been so wonderful if it weren't for Her Honor. I've heard you speak before, and it's always been very moving. Thank you so much. And you can tell that, it's supposed to be summer for another few days. Do you believe that? Yes, there's an optimist here. However, you can see that the sun is almost setting, and it's just perfect, because here we are at the end of the day with our friends celebrating something that has been very dear to our hearts for so many years, and finally it's here, it's done, and we were able to share that with all of you. Thank you so much. Well.
Yeah, we need to thank the organizers. Halina, your team, thanks very much for organizing the event.
And of course, the audience. This would not have been such a perfect afternoon if it had only been me, Jarek, the organizing team, and nobody. So thank you so much.
The more the merrier.
Oh yeah, it's going to be merrier even if we make it to 150 years, right?
Yeah. By the way, that's the invitation that we have as our last.
Right?
Yeah, the next unveil. The next celebration is in 2035, so it's coming soon. It's going to be 150th anniversary.
And we expect to see you all there.
Yes, in good shape. So one last thing that we would like to do formally, and then we will just relax. But we would like to ask our honorary guard to relieve the banners, and perhaps we can just pay some respect here for you guys to leave in your I'm not sure, I guess the sequence would be the right word.
Well, it's been very important to have all of these banners here to make this just a much more enjoyable occasion. So we want to thank all, well, not only men, Ola is over there with the banner for the Polish Canadian Women's Group, but thank all of you for standing so bravely for us during this event. Thank you very much.
Sztandarowe, za mną marsz.
Please don't rush off. Take a few minutes, enjoy some the company of people, perhaps you don't get to see them so often, but this is a great opportunity to renew some friendships. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon.
I think you did well.
Yes, that's awesome. Little bug there.
Thank you.
Actually, sorry.
That's
I think
okay.
it already ate you.
Don't worry about it.
Who do you think would be the best person to talk to? I know there's so many people that had a part in this, but just I'm a little confused.